Hey everyone, I've got a bad weather day today and finally taking some time to catch up on editing some videos from this past summer. I wanted to take you back in time, or maybe more appropriately to a parallel point in time. The last videos I posted were interseeding and side dressing in the corn crop. That was right around June 6th through 13th or so. So right at the same time, right around June 5th, 6th, we had our soybeans sprayed by the co-op. And so I wanted to do a crop update on that. And even though it was taking place at the same time, I didn't want to mix it with those corn side dress and interseed videos because I wanted to keep the two topics separate and not get things too muddled up. So parallel time period, June 6th, June 7th, we're going to take a look at the soybean crop right after it's been sprayed, and you can kind of compare and contrast between the one field that we had where the soybeans were planted green into cereal rye next to the driveway, and the other fields where the soybeans were planted, well, they were no-till planted, similar, but not into a green standing cover crop. They were kind of planted into a mix of annual ryegrass that survived the winter and weeds and a little bit of cereal rye that I frost seeded and only a small amount of it took off. But anyway, bear in mind the difference between the two and the fact that we are planning to next year plant all our soybeans green into cereal rye. I think you can kind of see the contrast between the fields. So if you get nothing else out of this video, look at that contrast. All right, here we go. Well, everyone, I'm following up here. Supper time. This is our cereal rye cover crop next to the driveway. And I don't know if you can believe it, but there's a whole crop of soybeans in there. And I wanted to take some video of it today because we just had the co-op come out to spray this and terminate it. It's looking really good. It's heading out now. And there's a little part of me that kind of thinks combining that cereal rye would probably be more valuable than the soybeans, especially if we could market it for cover crop seed. But we do not have the facilities or the ability to handle that right now. So as much as it pains me to have killed it off when it looks so nice, the co-op sprayed it down today. So within a few days, well, I mean, by tomorrow we should see it starting to wilt, and within a week it'll be brown and crispy. If we walk into the middle of it here a little bit, you can get an idea of there's the soybeans underneath that were solid seeded in with that no-till drill. And they look nice. They're coming along pretty good. The ones that are growing in and among the cereal rye look a little better even. They just seem to be really thriving in that canopy. But, you know, time will tell. I think that as the cereal rye dies off and tips over, it's going to make a nice residue cover. These are E3 beans, so they were sprayed with Enlist. This is our first year with that particular type of bean. So we will see how it turns out. Really, we made that choice based on our having a hard time controlling the ragweed in the fields last year. This field has always been pretty clean. We haven't had too much of a ragweed issue in this field, but certainly some of the others. And then I wouldn't be running a real honest farm YouTube channel if I didn't talk about our failures. This was the sweet corn that Dad planted before anything else. And he used seed that he thought was only a year old. And usually we've found after 2 years, it becomes pretty spotty as far as germination. Maybe that seed that he bought was already a year old when he bought it. We're not really sure. But it failed to do anything. He put it in the ground and we waited and waited. And while the regular corn came up beautifully, the sweet corn didn't do anything. So he went and got some new fresh sweet corn seed and just reseeded this a few days ago. And we got a rain. And would you look at that? Sweet corn coming up. While we're checking in on things, I wanted to give you both, the two of you watching this. While we're checking on things, I wanted to give everyone a view of what that field of Teff grass that Dad planted looks like so far. Here it is. This is the Teff grass that was planted with the Brillion seeder. As you can see, it makes a really nice, packed, even field. No growth on any of this yet. I'm looking down at the ground trying to spot anything that might have sprouted. We had a really nice rain 2 days ago. And so if anything was going to come up, it would be pretty soon. But I don't see any evidence that the teff is growing yet. I see some weeds coming up. That's to be expected. We will come back and look at this again when we start to see some evidence that the that we've got a crop sprouting out here. It's exciting for me. This is, I think, is going to make a really nice annual hay crop. We had the benefit of really good timing with rains and temperature and everything to be able to get it in when we did. It's kind of a rush for a couple of days there between making hay. There's the hay field we were baling on. Between making hay and shelling corn and everything, trying to get this planted, all happening about the same time. But we got her all in, so now we just wait. All right, here we are in one of the soybean fields. I can tell you right now, looking at these beans, the ones that are growing by the driveway in the farmyard that were planted at green into that cereal rye and which have been hanging out in that thick cereal rye canopy for all this time look a lot better than these beans. My goal in the future is to get all our beans planted green into cereal rye, which means I've got to get cereal rye on after corn harvest in the fall, and that could be a challenge. Something that we're going to work on, strategize over. But these are looking, they're okay. You can see there's some chemical burn on the leaves, which kind of makes sense. Even though they're resistant, that's a potent combination of chemicals. And for the record, I've said it before, I'll say it again, it would be nice to get away from spraying entirely. Maybe switch to a non-GMO bean. I haven't quite worked out how to do it yet. It's on my list of goals, but my list of goals is long. So for now, we're just trying to get some of our broadleaf weed problems that keep pestering us out in these fields under control. And this is the way we've chosen to do it. And I think this is looking pretty good. These weeds have obviously not completely dried out yet. They're hurting. You can see they're turning kind of yellow. Not a nice bright lush green color anymore. There's a look at a field that was not where the beans were not planted green into a standing cover crop. These were the fields that I frost seeded the cereal rye into, which didn't take off as well as I'd hoped. In fact, what we ended up with was a lot of volunteer annual ryegrass from the year before, from the interseeding in the previous year's corn crop. So the hope will be in a week or so, all the everything that's not soybeans in here will be dried up and starting to crisp over and fall over, and we'll have a nice clean field of beans. This field is also one that I never got around to picking up rocks in, so I should probably try to squeeze that in. I'm probably gonna have to walk it on foot at this point because I don't want to drive down a bunch of beans with the tractor. But I'm gonna have to at least scout it for rocks, because the last thing I want to do is tear out the cylinder on the combine this fall. And I know there's a few in here hanging out on the surface. All right, here's our third and final soybean field. This was one that I also showed in a previous video where the cover crops had taken over a lot more than the last field we were looking at. A lot of annual ryegrass came back from the previous year's corn interseeding. Actually, at least some percentage, I'm not quite sure exactly how much, of that frost seeding with the cereal rye this spring I did actually took off in here too. Because you could look around and you could find cereal rye plants growing sporadically here and there. Just where conditions were right and they got in the ground a little bit, or they had enough moisture, they took off. But this field looked pretty messy. Now you can tell it's getting yellow. So let's just take a video of this for posterity, and in a week or two, we'll come and look at it again. And the beans should have recovered from the spraying, and the weeds should be gone. Note that I use the qualifying term should. Should be gone. Beans should recover. Weeds should be gone. No guarantees. Man, farming will make you cynical. So there, we've covered all the fields. I'm kind of excited to keep you posted on this, and we'll come back in a week, 2 weeks, whatever seems to work well in the schedule, or when there's enough different out here. I mean, I don't want to come out here every day and show you guys the field every day and be like, oh, it's the same thing. It's pretty much the same as yesterday. So we'll wait until there's a pretty marked difference in the look and appearance of this. This is your base, your benchmark, your touchstone for what this will continue to look like and change over from.